Hi, and welcome back to Talking Insights. I'm your host, Antonio, and today we're diving into a question you might not expect from a workplace tech conversation. Can technology actually makes us happier at work? So there's this new study from Sago that uses facial coding and microexpression analysis to understand how platforms, especially well-designed ones, can really bring joy to marketing professionals. Because of this, I asked Chelsea Gibbons, she's the VP of Research Strategy at Sago, to understand a bit more of like how they measured happiness, how AI helps the process, and what it all means for the future of the workplace tech. It's a great conversation. I hope you learned something new and be actively listening to it. You'll understand the reference later on. So without further ado, here's Chelsea. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Talking Insights. I want to start off by asking a little bit more about this study that you conducted for Sago, and what inspired you to explore this connection between the workplace technology, happiness. Tell me everything.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm glad we were able to connect. So I'm Chelsea Gibbons. I'm a VP of Research Strategy at Sago. So I help clients like Storyblock design and execute research studies like this. So a little bit of background on them. They are they're global, and they're a headless content management system, a CMS system. And that's designed for developers and marketers. So they actually, and it's up on their website, this year they had the goal of bringing joy into this, I'm a researcher by trade. So for me, it feels like not the most joyful space, right? So that was their goal, is to bring joy into this space for marketers and developers to have more fun and to move more quickly, to be more productive. So that was their mission. And in order to do that, we did this study, and we did it in 3 countries, which is also really interesting. We did it in the US, where I am, and the UK. I conducted those interviews, and then I had a German moderator conduct the German interviews. So those were in the native language. And we had individuals go through and design a website on the Storyblock using the Storyblock product. So it was a usability test in essence, right? We had people go through, we had predetermined things we wanted them to do. But while I was asking them questions and guiding them through, we had the software, that the facial coding, that lets us quantitatively determine those emotions that were happening behind the scenes. So yes, in qualitative research, a lot of times we ask, oh, how did that make you feel? Or did you like that? And we still did that. So we had the synergy of both me probing and asking, but also we had their actual responses from the facial coding software. So it's a really good tool if you want to capture those kind of micro moments. And like, we're on camera right now. It's a podcast, so people won't be able to
Yeah.
see me. But I'm more emotional, right? You can see just naturally. But not everyone is. So it allows you to kind of capture those micro moments and those things that happen in a split second in a way that if I was just watching the tape back, you might not be able to capture.
It's interesting that you mentioned that this study was conducted in the US, the UK, but also Germany. Were there any like cultural differences between the different participants from the different countries, or were there like a more universal joy in terms of what the people were feeling?
Yeah, and that's another really interesting finding of this research, is there actually wasn't, which you would expect going in, especially with these countries that were selected. You would expect there's to be some nuances that pop up, cultural differences that pop up. But in this study, we actually didn't see much, just because I think some of this was qualitative base sizes. It was a qualitative study. But also, I think because there was so much intuitiveness and joy found in the software in this program, that it was more universal. So it was actually something we were looking for and we hypothesized we would see, but it actually was pretty consistent across the three countries. And I think that's like a testament to Storyblock, like what they had in there, like regardless. And this was, potentially in the future we'll go to more countries, but that it was so positive. The reactions were so positive and strong.
Is that a thing that you want to do for the future, to reach more countries, reach more people, and get the difference or not difference, or the way that they experience joy?
Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite things to do as a researcher is to do these kind of global studies because you do get to see those nuances. And so many clients of ours are global. So to just do research in the US doesn't necessarily make sense all the time. So potentially, yes, down the line, testing other countries, see, because the competitive landscape is different, how businesses work and operate could be a little different. So testing those in more places to see, right, if it holds strong or if there are things that could be fine-tuned as they continue to like grow and develop their platform.
Now, I want to ask about like the methodology or the way that you did this, because you were mentioning like the whole facial coding and the micro expressions. Can you explain me, like I was 5 years old, like how did all of this work? How did you use this technology and mixed with the micro expressions and the facial
Hmm.
recognitions and everything?
What's really nice about facial coding, like a real strength, is that it can be laid on top of existing research project. So we had set these up as one-on-one interviews. I was the moderator. I conducted these interviews, and we had like here's what we want you to do, and here's how the questions we'll ask. But the facial coding is just built into the software. So from the respondent's point of view, there's nothing else they have to do. Point of view, it doesn't add any time to the project. It's just a layer, additional layer that we can use for analysis. So that's kind of a strength of it. But what it does is it uses your camera, and so it's not intrusive. There's no more setup, right? But it captures those emotional expressions in real time. So then we can go back and code them, and the output looks very similar to like a quantitative study. You get graphs and tables, but we get to code them and see. You can layer it in with the interview, so you can see those. It's sorry, I'm motioning, but you can see the peaks, right? When
Yeah.
things peak, when things fall, and you can see, when respondents were happy, or it's joy. It's technically it is joy, but it classifies all of the emotions. There's seven. I can tell you the seven too in 1 minute. But it classifies all the emotions as we're going through it. So it's on the back end. You get this analysis, and you get to layer it on the information you have already collected. So yes, a question, right? The question will be the
Yeah.
seven. And so we just focused on joy for this analysis and this reporting because that was the goal of the research. But we also captured anger, disgust, surprise. That's a fun one if someone's surprised by something. Fear, sadness, and contempt. So in our study, we didn't see a lot of those more negative emotions, I would say, like fear or sadness. Not really applicable in a usability test like this. We did see some moments of surprise, and you can kind of see there's joy, there's surprise. But if you can kind of extrapolate a little bit, like this is really good if you're showing someone a TV show or an ad, those types of things. You can see where you might want to circle back and say, wait, why was everyone scared right there? Like what was happening? So it
Yeah.
allows you to kind of see all of the emotions, but for this, it was mostly joy because luckily for Storyblock, there was such a positive experience.
Nice. Did you use artificial intelligence or any type of recent technology to conduct the study or to help you out on the study? And how did you work with it?
Yeah, Sago actually, our tools, so we have all of our tools are in-house. So the tools we do have some AI built in. And mostly for me as the researcher that comes in the back end, it does a really good job of kind of organizing everything. Like this is hundreds of hours of just recordings, right? Video recording. So it allows us to organize it, to get transcripts, to add in names and to kind of filter through things in a way that even like 2 years ago, I wasn't able to do. So the Sago platforms do allow us to, it saves you a lot of time if you're a researcher. You don't have to kind of do a lot of the manual labor. I still go through, I mean, I read everything and craft the final report, but it does kind of save some of that, like the more tedious stuff that, like, a couple years ago, I would just have everything on my desktop, like just floating around. And now it's all in a nice spot. Those simple things that really kind of make your life easier.
Yeah. And how did the participants kind of felt or describe the experience afterwards? Because I can imagine that they were like going through all this thing, and for some could be a new thing, the first time doing these type of research. How did they felt on it?
Yeah, yeah, and especially if so all of our respondents were individuals who had used CMS platforms, like that's part of their role as a marketer or some developer overlap, right? Like they had experience with these platforms, but per our recruit, we didn't want anyone to have used Storyblock before. So they're all coming in, and when you do research like this, so some of them have never done interviews. So they're, you could be a little nervous and be like, what is this? And also I'm asking you to do something they've never done before with me watching. And so making sure they're comfortable, it's not a quiz. And it was like there's some of these features were not even released. So they're in beta. So like talking them through, making sure like there's no right or wrong answers. And if they do something like there's no like way to do something incorrectly in a scenario like this. So yeah, they kind of, most of them picked it up really fast. I was very impressed with how quickly people were able to kind of navigate and do everything. We spent very little onboarding time, but afterwards too, just seeing that there is something like this out there, right? Like some of these tools that they're using don't have the capabilities of the tool that they saw today. I mean, even some of them were like, well, now I have something to think about, right? Or like, when will these features be updated and that sort of thing. So yeah, it is always when you do these research studies and you're talking to people, especially watching them, like I know for myself, like people watching me type, or when you have to write on a whiteboard or something, like, I spell things wrong. I'm a human. I make mistakes. So yeah, making sure that they understand that that's all part of the process.
And do you think these studies, or I don't know, these kinds of studies will help companies and technology companies in general to improve productivity, or at least bring some more joy to the workplace? Do you think these will help out?
Yes, absolutely. And I think as companies continue to listen to their customers, that will always make things more efficient and yeah, bring joy to like something like this, right? A CMS platform. It's like, okay, if you want me to, we can try. But this is some like individuals in this space, this is what they spend hours, like several, up to 8 hours a day doing. So to have these little efficiencies, to have these little moments of joy, to be able to, those platforms had, Storyblock has AI built into, and that's some of the features we tested of like, now I don't have to do this. Now I can do, they have a language translation, which was new. So that those little things that will like make their lives easier will in turn make them happier. And I think listening, regardless of the sector, but listening to customers and listening to the things that they like and they don't like will just make the products better and then yeah, make people's lives a little easier.
That's very important. I think, yeah, when you're doing a product, when you're creating something, I think it's very important for you to listen actively, and some people are just not listening.
Mhm.
I have
Mhm.
one last question, and let's say that in 2 or 3 years you were to run the study again. What would you expect it to see there? Would you expect to see any difference, any improvements, or I don't know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. In 2 to 3 years, well, so since this was a usability study and we saw some things that could make like little bugs, things that could be like, and I said this was a beta, so, but things that as Storyblock puts these features out there, like this will be the most beneficial way to put this forward. And I think whenever developers don't necessarily listen to customers in the same way as the customer service sector of a business, so developers listening to these tapes, seeing how people interact with their tool, they'll get ideas on how to make the functionality seamless. In a few years, though, I mean, AI is going to continue, right? Continue to have a part in, especially in the technology sector. Competitors in this space will also continue to kind of grow and develop. So I think if we did this study in a few years, I feel strongly that Storyblock will continue to have a great product. I think it's though that they have to keep innovating and keep doing things like this, listening and completing that customer service cycle so that they can continue to kind of be the leader in this space.
That's perfect. Well, there you go. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for your time. Thanks so much for shedding a light on this project, and I think and hope that people learn something new, even if nothing else, like at least to listen more actively, and keep in mind that they need to listen more, and be more present. So yeah, thank you so much, Chelsea.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. Pleasure meeting you.
And that's all for today. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for the conversation and shedding a light on how this study was made. That's all for me this week. Next week, we have another great episode. But until then, have a good one. See you on the next one. Bye.